everyone, it's Sevi, and the Phase 2 banners for this patch have just been announced, featuring NILOU and Albedo. Of course, we have the character and the weapon banners, so I'm going to be doing a quick review of these and giving my overall thoughts on their value. So let's just get into it. Alright, starting with the character banner. The 4 stars here aren't really for long-time players who have completed their constellations already, but for new players in particular, they are very friendly for you since their materials are accessible early enough in NILOU, and Xiangling and Beidou have very good reputations for being strong meta units. Putting Barbara on this banner makes sense for NILOU because in her Bloom teams, she really wants a healer. Now, there are no Dendro healers yet in the game as of now, so your options really are Kokomi or Barbara. And if you don't have Kokomi, who is another limited 5-star character, then your default go-to is Barbara. But even outside of NILOU, I think that Barbara has been gaining a bit more relevance now than before. I mean, prior to Dendro, she was a bit of an unwanted unit, and since she's free, she feels relatively replaceable. But I actually have been recommending her a bit more often in Dendro-related guides because, again, she is a very accessible Hydro healer, which a lot of teams, Dendro teams in particular, can now benefit from. Running alongside NILOU is Albedo as our other 5-star. Albedo usually comes in either November or December, so it's kind of strange seeing him this early now, especially since we're not in Dragonsbane, and Albedo is usually attached to a Dragonsbane event. But I'm going to be releasing a separate video on what I think Albedo's current state in the meta is. But suffice to say, he's a generally okay pull and very easy to use as a flex slot. He's very casual player friendly, and he works surprisingly well with the new Dendro teams. He's not like the best top tier pull, but he's also far from being the worst. That being said, he's kind of more of a want than a need type of unit. So those are the units that were featured. Now let's talk about the weapon banner, which kind of is a more interesting discussion. The weapon banner is definitely a sword impact banner. There are 2 swords on it. It's NILOU's signature weapon paired up with the very tempting Primordial Jade Cutter. Now, I know that the Jade Cutter is generally one of the most viable and usable best swords in the game, and Hoyu is really baiting players to pull on this banner. I mean, NILOU's signature weapon is going to be very niche to use, which might make the banner risky to pull on, but in the past, the Jade Cutter has served as an effective bait weapon. I remember when it released alongside the Everlasting Moonglow, which was Kokomi's signature weapon. I read comments from people who tried their luck on the weapon banner, lost to the Moonglow even though they were trying to snipe the Primordial Jade Cutter, but they didn't have Kokomi. And because Kokomi already has great free-to-play weapons anyway, that Everlasting Moonglow just ended up as a paperweight catalyst. So yeah, you don't want to end up like that. The banner in general is also really just trying to get you to spend primos. Like, if you pull on the banner, trying to get the Jade Cutter and then end up getting the key, you're going to be tempted to keep on pulling and pulling until you get the Jade Cutter, which reduces the primos you have for the future, and at worst, you're just going to cave in right now and spend to secure the Jade Cutter. Honestly, if you're a free-to-play or low-spender player, then that's a really bad scenario to fit yourself in. So I would advise you to not pull on this banner unless you have a guaranteed NILOU. Even then, if you do have guaranteed NILOU, or if you do get NILOU, you don't strictly need her 5-star weapon unless you're just a dedicated NILOU main who wants her absolute best in slot. If you do get NILOU, then pulling for either weapon on this banner isn't a bad thing. You get her signature weapon, or you get a really good universal sword in the form of the Jade Cutter. As for the 4 stars, we are getting 2 new Sumeru weapons, the Xiphos Moonlight Sword and the Wandering Evenstar Catalyst. As of recording this video, miHoYo hasn't yet released the official stats of these weapons, but we already got the Claymore version in the first phase of this patch, and from being in the same series, we can assume that these weapons will also have EM secondary stats. There are several EM lovers among sword users and catalyst users, Kazuha in particular, so I'm pretty excited for these weapons, and I hope that I can get at least 1 copy of each to try them out. You'll notice that 4 out of 5 of the 4-star weapons on this banner are EM weapons, with the Rainslasher and Dragonsbane being among them. So when it comes to the Rainslasher, that one is viable on Diluc or Beidou in certain scenarios, and the niche build, EM Razor, is also a user of this. The Dragonsbane is excellent for Burgeon Toma, and it's generally good on Xiangling or Hu Tao. It also has some niche use for like Reverse Mount Rosaria or EM Sino or even EM Raiden builds for those juicy hyperblooms. I might have missed a few units regarding these weapons, but those are the ones that I can think of off the top of my head. So aside from being a sword banner, Hoyu is really pushing the EM weapons on us this patch, which is pretty, it makes sense. I mean, EM and Denjo, they just go together just like that. The odd 4-star out is the Sacrificial Bow. The odd 4-star out is the Sacrificial Bow, which is an ER weapon, and it's also good for bow users that do benefit from its ER and its skill reset effect. All in all, I think that the character banner is an easy skip for players that don't want the 5 stars, aka NILOU or Albedo, which is probably a lot of players, to be honest. Now, if you do want them, then definitely pull, and I wish you a lot of luck. And maybe, hopefully, you have yet to complete the constellations of the 4 stars on the banner as well, so that you can pull more value out of the banner. That's going to be all for my thoughts on these character and weapon banners. Hopefully we'll get more details on the weapons soon. I will have my NILOU guide ready upon her banner drop, upon her release, so watch out for that. Also, again, watch out for my video on my thoughts on Albedo. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like. Consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all soon. Take care!